one. Here we go.
Here we go.
Welcome again. The
Hello,
fortnightly return and another very special guest, another very familiar face on the VC, all the way from the Netherlands. It's Paul.
Very excited to join you guys. Very nice. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, and I mean, Paul has a fantastic taste and a great knowledge of funk, jazz, funk, soul, disco. That's what he tends to show. He also does great sort of hi-fi tips every now and again, and
they're great
reviews and sort of accessories and stuff. So a very popular channel on the VC, and we're absolutely delighted to have him. And for anyone who hasn't seen this format, this is something we've been doing since lockdown. We just decided, you know, John and I had been meeting in a physical space for years and years and sharing music and talking about what we've been playing. And we didn't want to stop, even though we can't physically be together. But we also thought it'd be great to link up with people in the VC, and particularly some of our favorite channels, and invite them. We can't have them in our house, but here they are. So John, we're gonna do 7 records. We don't know what anybody's brought. There may be a connection or there may not. And we also know Paul might do some needle drops, which will be a first for us.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to start off with Popcorn Wiring with Extrasensory Perception, which is I think I might have shown ages and ages ago in very early VC, but I've just been listening to it a lot recently. It's kind of interesting record. It's kind of almost between kind of the end of Motown and the beginning of the kind of Barry White kind of funk sound. And it's got a lot of that. It's got a lot of the suspects from late period Motown. So David T. Walker and James Jamerson and all those people, but also people like strings arranged by Gene Page and so forth. And it's great. It's quite an odd sounding record. It's got quite a lot of reverb on it, but it's
names sound familiar, but
funky. It's a real good one, actually. It's got a soulful and funky. And I think Dusty Groove reissued this, I think, a while ago as well. This is this original, which was on ABC Records.
And what does Popcorn play?
He plays keyboards and sings as well.
Nice.
And so it's got Ed Green, usuals, Wawa Watson, Dean Parks, David T. Walker, Dennis Coffey, James Jamerson, Scott Edwards.
All great names. Yeah.
It's good. It's a real good one, actually. But it's got an it sounds kind of Motown-y, but also you can almost sounds a bit like Love Unlimited or Barry White or something as well.
Yeah, with Gene Page on it. Yeah.
Nice. Great. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, the newest record that passed the front door was by Anthem International.
Yeah, I don't know it, but I know the label.
Yeah, it's by Carlos Nino and Miguel Atwood Ferguson. It's recorded, I think, almost live, or at least in an open space with audience next to it, close to the Lake Michigan. And that's why I played samples, because it's 2 guys and the instruments they play is percussion and soundscapes. And Miguel, he plays the 5-string violin with effects. So I don't think that says much about the music, or it does not really give a great sample of how it is done. So as you said already, Mark, I put my little turntable here and I just want to play quickly a sample so you get an idea how it sounds. So it's very moody, reflective music, but in a sense, it's really nice. I call it as a tip from Alex. And the whole album is like what you heard in the sample. So it is just moving, flowing music. It could have been Oriental, but it is not. Very nice.
So is it like an improvisation, do you think?
Yeah, almost completely. I think they just bounce ideas from each other and the two of them are really playing and interacting.
There's
really,
an album I've got by those two where they're doing kind of orchestral versions of Jay Dilla tunes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could have been. This is really.
I think he's very talented.
Yeah.
Edward Ferguson, I think he's really good, actually.
Very nice. Nice, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the latest one I've added to the collection.
Well, this record I just picked up this morning because there's yet another record store day, and in the town I live in, we now have a record shop who for the first year ever participate. So there's very rarely a queue, and I came across this album, which is J&K, which is J.J. Johnson and Kai Winding, two trombonists. This apparently is the rarest CTI album. It was only released in Japan in 1970.
I can imagine, never seen it.
No, I've never seen it. I've never even heard about it. I noticed when I looked on Discogs, the original goes for £1,000, which is a lot for a CTI record.
And now two are for sale or not? And now this is immediately for sale or not? No.
Yeah. Now this you can just pick up for, you know, I think I paid £23 for this, but it was recorded in 1969, and J.J. Johnson and Kai Winding both play the trombone, so it's like a double trombone set, and then you've got a rhythm section of Grady Tate on the drums, Ron Carter on the upright bass, and then Herbie Hancock and Bob James on keyboards, and then George Benson. So it's a really nice set of musicians, and there's only 4 tracks on the album, and they're just, you know, it's that moment where jazz was just beginning to sort of experiment with electronics, particularly in the keyboard sound.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Is Herbie Hancock and Bob James, are they playing electric piano?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. Like there's Celeste and Rhodes and stuff. So yeah, I mean it's early days. It's not that experimental, but it's definitely not like a regular jazz album. And the rhythm section are really grooving nicely, and there's some wonderful George Benson playing as well. So
it sounds like the perfect.
Yeah, so it's called
sorry, I was just saying there's a great Paul Desmond record from that time as well, with that almost the same lineup without the trombonists playing, and they're all playing Simon and Garfunkel tunes.
Right.
It's a really classic one.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I think I can't remember what it's called actually.
So this is
it's
called
also on CTI or not, John?
Sorry, that one's on CTI. That's the same. It's on A&M CTI as well.
Yeah, A&M CTI. Yeah, so Stone Bone is the name of the album. Very recommended. Sounded great, actually. Nice. I mean, it's I'm never that wild on colored vinyl, but actually, this is a lovely color. Look at this, beautiful,
cool.
And actually sounds really nice. So yeah, very happy with that.
Yeah, I don't understand why they do reissues on colored vinyl. Why would you do that? It takes away so much.
I don't know.
Or we are just nerdy that we upset that they do it that way. I don't know, but
yeah. All right, John.
Right. So this is a bit of a classic. But the reason I'm showing it is it's kind of interesting. You kind of, if you ever do DJing either for live stuff or for radio, you just think about one track on an album all the time. And obviously the track on this one is Just Kiss My Baby, but the whole album is just great, this album.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't sat down and listened to the whole album for a long time. And every track's brilliant on it, actually. And there's a really great long track, It Ain't No Use on it as well, which is really
brilliant.
12 minutes, fantastic. And I just think sometimes you just think of the one track off records and miss it sometimes. And this was just a real classic album.
It Ain't No Use apparently was a David Mancuso Loft classic.
Yeah. So yeah, Meter's Rejuvenation. One of the whole.
You're right though, John, because I used to buy loads of albums just for the one track.
I know.
And then all I'd listen to was the one track, and then you sort of actually put the album on sometimes, and it's like, wow, There's all
Well,
this
the other one
stuff.
is the Freddie Hubbard Love Connection record, because that's got some great stuff on it.
Has it?
Yeah, I mean, Little Sunflower, which is the one, but the other 3 tracks on there are just fantastic on it as well.
Nice.
The Meters.
I just recently got this one as a replacement of my reissue.
Oh, lovely.
I don't do reissues. When I have them, that's the way it is. Then I don't usually get an original, but especially, I think this is 1973, and the US pressing, they have this nice cardboard, and the feel of the record, it just makes it so special. And especially, this was the connection with you, Mark, with the Electric Roads. This one with Harry Whittaker, and then together with Roy Ayers. Sound is so nice, it's so brilliant. And like you said, John, I don't think I spun the reissue anymore, maybe 10 years ago, and now I've been spinning this one lately. And then you rediscover an album. It's like you have never heard it before. It's something familiar, but you miss so much of the music.
Completely, yeah. That's such a great album, that one.
That's one of his best, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Also on the backside, just the photograph. I mean, he looks badass on it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And he's just turned 80, I think, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and still recording.
And made an album with Ali Shaheed Mohammed and Adrian Young as well. Which is
so for the people who don't have the album yet, it really connects with what you had before, the JK album, that sound of the late of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. It's what you need.
Yeah. Beautiful. Great. Well, this is an album that I got for less than £2 on Discogs. And I just was alerted to a particular track. This is Maynard Ferguson.
Yeah.
And the album is
nice price.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice price because, as you can see, it's got a bit of cover damage here. And the record was a little bit dirty, but, you know, having a record cleaner cleaned it up. It sounds beautiful. It's arranged by Bob James. I mean, it's kind of got that CTI kind of flavor, a little bit more cheesy. I mean, it's got the the Star Trek theme tune, and also the theme tune from Rocky on it.
Yeah.
But actually,
what is the main tune on it? The one that really, where he's really
is Mr. Mellow. Mr. Mellow is amazing. Mr. Mellow is just check out Mr. Mellow on Spotify. Maynard Ferguson, wonderful playing from George Benson again, and just the sound of it is beautiful. The production is sensational. And just great players, you know, it's either Peter Skin or Harvey Mason on the drums. Yeah, it just sounds really classy. And they just sound
really want to pick up.
Yeah, so some cheap heat, you know. I don't know, maybe I was just lucky to find it for so cheap. But and Mr. Mellow is the tune, but it's all good.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's also behind me, I believe, somewhere in this section, same album.
Am I on?
You are on, John.
Okay. Right, okay. Losing the plot here.
We're going anti-clockwise here, John.
Okay. So next up, some Blue Note action. And Jackie McLean, Let Freedom Ring, which is absolute great. It's kind of, it's a lot of people think it's going to be one of his more avant-garde ones, but it really isn't actually. It's quite a straight ahead album. And particularly Billy Higgins drumming on this record is just fantastic, actually. So it's Jackie McLean, Woods Davis on piano, Herbie Lewis on bass, and the first track, Melody for Mel and I, which is his daughter, it's absolutely brilliant, actually, real good one. So check out that track on, I think that's probably on YouTube or else. And so just a really good, solid, excellent session from Jackie McLean, and a pretty classic cover as well, I think.
Nice.
It's always, that's so difficult to find.
Yeah, and this was one of the reissues of the first round of reissues, the 25 years Was it 25 or 50? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think more. 25 is only like 1995.
No, that wouldn't be that.
It's telling your age.
Yeah, it's got the first. It was from the first, but the European pressings were really good at these. Actually, the American ones weren't so hot, but the European ones were good. So yeah, highly recommended.
Brilliant.
Nice.
All right,
this
Paul.
is the album I've been playing the most during the last 2 months. I think you recognize it by Greg Folk, UK jazz player, piano, and he has found, I must say, almost the perfect mix between old and new. So what he usually does is he takes UK players which are very now. For example, well, he's not from the UK, but Moses Boyd is drumming on this one. But he also takes from the 70s. So the drummer on disc 1 is Moses Boyd, and on disc 2 it's Clark Tracy.
Wow.
That gives the feel also of two. It's almost like two EPs. It is like a mellow one, which is more traditional to the 70s UK jazz, and then you have the more upbeat one, disc 1, and that is more UK jazz as we know it now and as we are playing it now. And I must say, it is especially the disc 2, the mellow one, that I pick out the most to play and to spin. That's really smooth, but the flow is really amazing. Really...
He's Australian, Greg Folk.
Sorry?
Is he British or is he Australian?
No, British, I guess.
British, okay. Yeah.
He lives on the Isle of Wight.
Oh, okay. So he lives overseas then.
Yeah, for both of us.
Nice.
No, very nice. I can sample a smooth one, or do you want to have the up-tempo one or the smooth one?
Let's go smooth, Paul. Go smooth. I also noticed, I listened to an interview with him, and I think he managed to get some personal lessons from this keyboard player called Gordon Beck, who I've shown albums from before. I've never heard a UK musician mention him before, so I was quite intrigued. Okay.
Now the fun thing is Greg Folk, he watches a lot of my videos for some reason. So he usually comments on them. So we have a kind of a connection of between each other, and that's very nice.
That's great.
Why you're here. Yeah. That's usually what he does. He's excellent at letting other people flow, and he's just like organizing it. But it's very well done, I must say. I think he also a correct lost final, because the way it has been done, how it is pressed, how he does the covers, the inside, you have gatefold, but it's really classical with recording photos on the inside. It's really
nice.
It's a really great album.
Was it using an Echoplex there or something or other on the sax? Was there like a loop on the sax or something like that?
I will check who's doing the sax. That was Dave Bitelli.
Oh, Dave Bitelli, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
Dave Bitelli, yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
But could also be Art Thiemann. He's also on tenor saxophone, so soprano sax.
He's got 3 generations then of UK musicians. Because Art Thiemann must be...
I must say that's the brilliant thing about Greg. He's really trying to do this. He's really looking them up and letting them play again and so on. So that's really, and I did not really notice it, but you can see it also on previous albums. That is really not a formula, but he's really trying to do it this way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Art Thiemann has a very good day job. He's a surgeon.
I didn't know that.
He must be well in his 70s now, I should think. Yeah. Probably not. Maybe he's not a surgeon anymore.
No.
He certainly was one.
Okay.
Okay, next up, I think Doug might have shown this. I think he probably did. In fact, he definitely did. And I was inspired. This is a compilation that Soul Jazz Records put out of Bunny Lee, the producer, who very sadly died a couple of weeks ago. This album is called Dreads Enter the Gates with Praise, and it's a compilation of classic Bunny Lee productions and also some dubs and some rare stuff. Johnny Clark is featured quite heavily, as are the Uniques, which was the band that Slim Smith was part of, I believe. And yeah, just Bunny Lee is one of those producers who, like, you kind of, you know his name, but I just didn't realize how many records I had that he'd got his name on, actually. And again, there's a great Doug Fat City Vinyl video where he kind of really talks about the production style and this kind of what was called the flying cymbals, which was basically just the kind of it was almost like the sort of disco hi-hat sound, which was quite a feature in early 70s, well, mid 70s reggae, which apparently was a direct inspiration from the MFSB band and that kind of proto-disco hi-hat sound that translated across to reggae. But yeah, just really nice, fantastic album. Couple of really nice Bob Marley covers on here, but really nice to have the kind of King Tubby dub versions after the vocal versions as well. Triple vinyl, and it's yeah, you can get it fairly cheaply at the moment, and a very nice.
The compilations are fantastic, I think.
Absolutely.
That's what they've done from the beginning almost.
They're just really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, Horsemouth Wallace, he was the guy who was the king of the flying cymbals, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The drum. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going slightly different direction, no connection at all with the last track. But I've been playing this quite a lot recently. This is the New York Art Quartet, which was a kind of one of the early kind of late 60s, following on from Coltrane, Albert Ayler and Ornette groups with John Chikai, who's from Belgium, actually, on alto saxophone, Roswell Rudd on trombone, and Milford Graves on drums, and Reggie Workman on bass. And this is a really interesting sounding record, very unique sound this group had. They made two albums, one with Leroy Jones, the poet, on as well. This was their first one, the Mohawk. And they had a kind of, just a very, very unusual sound, very loose sounding, composed, not completely improvised, but kind of just very, very interesting. A lot of the sound comes from Milford Graves, who's just an amazing drummer. And my favorite track on here is the title track, Mohawk, which is a...
From which year is it, John?
Sorry?
From which year is it?
This is from 1966, I think.
Fantastic.
I think it's 65 or 60. Yeah. So actually, this is an original mono edition of it, actually, which is and it came out in Netherlands actually first. This was actually released on Fontana, which was a Philips label in the Netherlands. Then I think it came out there before it came out in the States.
Okay. It's crazy how much Philips has done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope they've all got their masters still somewhere or other. I'm like, yeah, but it's a good. I mean, either this one or the second one, which was with Leroy Jones, are both great albums, actually.
Yeah, it's very hard to make a connection to that one, John. I'm going to make my own connection.
You see the one I've got coming next.
It's not nice to be. I should have been after Mark, not after John. And the next album is from the collection of Greg Folk. So this was a record he had in his collection, and he asked us if I wanted to have it. And I have never heard before of Mike. What was it? Mike Maidrini? Journey to an Electric Tube. Yeah. So he plays like Roy Ayers.
Yeah, he played with Steps Ahead, didn't he, as well?
It was Steps Ahead, yeah, that was his band, yeah.
Okay. So it was the first time I heard about it, and the album is from 1968 or 69. And it's really fun because it's kind of experimental. You can clearly hear they're trying to find a way to make the vibraphone more interesting or electrify it. And they got some really nice success on that one. So.
Jeremy Steed playing
Yeah.
Is that Jeremy?
I really like it.
Jeremy's...
I was surprised by this one.
Yeah. There's a lot. That was one of the very early fusion records, actually. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that, I mean, I think we all think sometimes that fusion started with In a Silent Way, but there was a lot of stuff that came out before that, actually. Yeah. And that's always, there was a band called something like The White Elephant or something or other, which had Mike Maneri and a whole range of people in it as well from that time. And they were all doing stuff in the late 60s, actually, which was, as you say, experimenting with electronics and trying to change the sound of stuff.
Yeah, some got it right, some got it wrong, but this one's right.
Nice, nice. Okay, I wonder. Yeah, I'm going to go with this one. So Jonas is from Sweden, is another of my favorite channels. And he was sharing his original copy of this, which is the Grodek Whipperjanny, which I've had on my wants list, and I couldn't quite remember what it was all about. And it's about
why is it on the wants list?
Yeah. It's
Dave Matthews thing.
Sorry, it's Dave Matthews. Yeah. Dave Matthews. What's wonderful on this reissue is you get this beautiful, really nice booklet. You know, there's actually a wonderful photo here which I must show you. I don't know if you can see Dave Matthews kind of conducting. I can see Bootsy on the bass there, these dancers, James Brown, and it was a moment in time where James Brown was very aware that there was this kind of whole underground music scene happening that he wasn't feeling particularly connected to. And he'd seen Dave Matthews arranging or in action and just really connected with him and worked with him quite a bit. And there was the album, I think it's called Show Enough Funky, which is pretty much an all instrumental band, instrumental James Brown album, which is like the sort of, you know, the sister album to this. This is more...
Okay, that's the one I'm missing still.
Yeah, this one is really quite out there. I mean, you would never think there was any kind of James Brown connection with this, but it's really, yes, really nice. And I think I only paid 15 pounds for this. It's really nice reissue.
There was also that psychedelic version of Talking Loud at the same time, saying something. Have you heard Single, which has kind of got a fuzz guitar on?
Yeah. So this is on the Now Again record label, and big shout out to Jonas for alerting me to this. Again, the beauty of the VC is like we just, you know, we're all connected as this community, and we're just passionately sharing music that we need to listen to. So it's great.
There are so many games out there that we don't know about.
Exactly. Still.
To point,
Even after all these years, still discovering.
Now I'm feeling guilty now, because I'm setting Paul up with an impossible one to follow. I wasn't expecting to be right on. This was one of I've been listening to a lot of really early free jazz recently and kind of digging into my, this was the very first record that ever came out on FMP Records, which is free music production in Germany, and has just about everybody who was on the scene then on it. It's got Evan Parker on it, who lives in the same place as Mark, Paul Rutherford, Derek Bailey, Alex Schlippenbach, Han Benink, Bushi Neibergall, everybody's on here. And the nice thing about it breaks down into lots of duos and trios all the time. So it's not a full blast all the time. It's kind of, there's quite a lot of full blast on it, but also it just breaks down into interesting little trios. And there's one great bit with all three bass players playing at the same time on it, which sounds amazing, actually. Luckily, I'm not going to needle drop this, actually, so I'll probably blast zoom out. But anyway, so this is, so I'm working my way through a lot of the early free music stuff, actually. And also shocked to see how much this is worth, actually, on Discogs.
Yeah.
Quite a frightening amount of money as well. So I'm going to wrap it in plastic now, I think.
Looks in very good condition, John.
It is, yeah. Has a kind of, has a vaguely psychedelic label on the middle as well.
Yeah, never seen that before.
Been reissued a few times actually, but this is the original copy.
So that's easy to connect to. I will follow that up with also a little bit of European jazz, but then more on East Europe side. Let me put it here. These are all from Czechoslovakia groups, 3 groups who do a workshop of jazz rock. And it is not like the record you showed before, because you can get it easily below 10 euros. But I think it's a little bit the same. They're experimenting, they're bouncing ideas of each other. And especially in Eastern Europe, I believe that is also an area where you can still find a lot of great music, and the musicians, they were so capable. It's amazing. And they call it jazz rock. It is more what I would call jazz funk. But they give it their own touch. And although it is, I think it's from 1975 or 1976, it is like you go a little bit earlier and you can see the same thing happening in other parts of the world, like in the US and so on. But they give it their own touch and their own flavor. And that makes this one, I really like this kind of sound. So let me quickly needle drop it.
What's it called again, Paul? I didn't quite catch the title.
Well, the title is at the bottom. Can you see it? So it is Jazz Rock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then this is the title. You can pronounce it yourself.
Quite a hairdo as well.
Yeah. It's all, can you see it? It's all like electrical systems.
Yes.
And so on.
Yeah. Nice.
That's, I think because to represent the electric vibe on it. Yeah, because it is recorded live, it really has a raw edge to it, to the instrumentation, to the way they play. It's really got a nice, tough sound to it.
The opening of that track sounded very much like something else. I'm trying to think about what it was.
It sounded like a Herbie Hancock tune.
Yeah, you got it, John. Or Mark, you got it. It is, what is it from? It's written by Herbie Hancock. Is it? I will just show it, because I'm butchering so many names usually. Tiffany, is it clear?
Can't read it. But it was definitely her. I think it's off Sunlight or one of those, isn't it? I think.
Could be. I have to double check, because that's a nice thing. It sounds familiar, but because the way they do it, it has something very nice to it.
Nice.
Definitely.
Okay. What have I got left? Okay, we'll go here. This is actually, Paul, you occasionally tune into my radio show, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is really
like to do it while I'm working.
Yeah. So I kind of got into this guy again a couple of shows back. This is Paul Kossoff, the guitarist who played with Free.
Go to my door.
Oh, John's got his door. Who very tragically died, aged 25. I can't believe it. He died. This was the early 70s. I think about 74, 75. And he just got very involved in heroin, I think. And hugely talented guitarist, and the son of quite a well-known British actor called David Kossoff, who actually went and did a year's worth of talks about, drugs and his son. I think he was so devastated by the death. This, Paul Kossoff is one of those guitarists who I rate alongside someone like Peter Green, in someone who is very economical with their playing. So the opposite of Alan Holdsworth, who I mentioned last video. Like, Paul Kossoff says more with one note than many other guitarists do with sort of 50. And there is also this kind of deep sort of sadness I often find, but this kind of real melancholy in his playing. It can be very mournful, but there's a couple of absolute killer tunes on here. One is the track called I'm Ready, which features the vocals of Jess Roden and the wonderful drum and bass combination of Alan White on the drums and Alan Spenner, who also played with Kokomo on the bass. And then there's a great collaboration, which I just hadn't noticed before, which is between Paul Kossoff and John Martin, called Time Away. And of course, Paul Kossoff toured with John Martin when he was doing his, what's the name of that White album, the John Martin, the Live at Leeds. Although Paul Kossoff never appears, actually, he doesn't seem to appear on the album, even though he was there, because I think he was so...
No, but there's a CD reissue of it, which has got all the Paul Kossoff tracks on it.
Does it sound good?
Does sound good, yeah. It's twice the length of the vinyl, and it's got about 7 or 8 tracks with Paul Kossoff on as well. It sounds really good, yeah.
And this was recorded at the time when Paul Kossoff was living in West London, just around the corner from Island Records. And he'd just sort of go and hang out in the studio and jam. And that basically is really what this album was. And then the band Backstreet Crawler kind of came as a result of this. And then very sadly, about two years later, he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When Mark played a track on his radio show, I'd never noticed before that he sounds a bit like Eddie Hazel from Funkadelic. He's got a similar kind of yearning kind of style of playing, I think, as well.
That's the problem with Mark's show. When I hear the song, then I thought I should write it down. What is he playing? But Mark, then I'm lost already. It's impossible to find the playlist.
I should play this through, as it just came through the door, but I don't know what it is. So.
Oh, John, do an unboxing.
I could do an unboxing.
Go on.
I'll show something else first, actually. So this is going to throw Paul as well. This is the
something with the colours.
This is the Grateful Dead. This is Europe 72. And I've just been there's a guy that I discovered, and Mark's been looking at as well on YouTube, who's called The Guitar Teacher, who does these incredible deconstructions of songs and records and so forth. Really interesting. Not just nerdy guitar stuff, but just really gets into them. And just remind me really about how many great songs the Grateful Dead wrote, actually. And this triple album from which only cost £4.99 when it came out, which was when I first saw them in 1972. And there's so many great songs on here, which were never actually on a studio album. So I've been digging into this and having a bit of a nostalgia trip, I must admit, actually. But it's actually it only costs £3.49. It's actually been reduced, which is pretty good for a triple album. I think I came out as a Deadhead a couple of years ago on Mark's channel, but still listening to them. This is a great album. If you want to get one live Dead album, this is the one to get as well.
Yeah, okay. I'll remember that. So I only have something a little bit more like the colors. That's the only connection I could make with the record you just showed.
Yeah,
absolutely. Or Ross. I think it's released beginning of this year or just before summer. It is from the Vinyl Factory, who have pressed it and released it. It are 3 guys from Israel who are living in Berlin. So you get a really strange connection music-wise, because they play a kind of boogie music, just more in the direction of jazz funk, but they give it the production sound, very analog from the 70s. And maybe because they are into living in Berlin, it has a little bit of that electronic vibe to it also. So I don't know if that's helpful to describe this music, but it's very now, in a sense, with the analog vibe on it. So let me quickly sample it to give you an idea. They also sing on it, or they use words, but that's all in Hebrew.
Hebrew, okay.
To make it even more confusing. very floating, but somewhere in between genres.
Yeah.
There's sort of reggae vibe.
I like it.
A little bit of a
Okay,
reggae vibe, almost a little bit of a kind of kraut rock kind of vibe as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean with the living in Berlin.
Right,
I don't know if it's mixing all things together.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's on Vinyl Factory, you said?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, B, if you got a dog there, you got a dog there.
Yeah, by accident.
Let's have him.
Oh no, I just said.
Oh, okay. There was going to be a rare appearance from one of my dogs, but she's not going to come. Right, this is a 12-inch that I picked up a few weeks ago. A band that released, or had their sort of late 70s album released for the first time last year, I think it was. This was released on the Cordial Recordings record label, who are based in Margate, which is down the southeast, down where I am. And yeah, this is an American band. You can see them on the back here. This is a really, the track here, it's a 12-inch, it's called Set You Free. And it's nearly 12 minutes long. And it's an incredible sort of soul psychedelic exploration. Just really sonically fantastic. And yeah, just as far as I know, the first time it's ever been out on vinyl. And I got this via Bandcamp, so I think there's probably still some copies left. But very much, if you're into sort of psychedelic soul, this is the place to come. Family of Swede.
Never seen it.
No.
What's in the box, John? You're keeping us in suspense.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't open it, actually. It's so well sealed, I can't get it open.
Come on, John. Get some scissors out.
I'll do my last record and I'll try and open it.
Okay.
So this has just come out a couple of days ago, not in the box, actually. No. This is a new release by somebody who I know very well, actually, David Toop, and it's called Apparition Paintings. And it's come out on a great label, which from Australia, called Room 40. You do a great job with their stuff on every format. They do lots of different formats. They do books as well, all kinds of things. And this is kind of David mostly by himself, and it's very guitar kind of centered record, actually, which is quite unusual for him. He usually plays a lot of flutes and stuff, but a lot of this stuff's guitar. And all of the tracks have names which come from Marilyn Monroe films and other books and so forth as well. And it's just really good. And one track on here has actually been, it's trending a bit on some of the social media sites. It's almost like a pop tune, which is really weird, actually, because a lot of it's pretty experimental. But there's, I just noticed it getting on TikTok and all kinds of things like that, which is kind of very unusual for a late 70-year-old avant-garde musician to get that kind of attention. But it's very nice done. They've done a great job. I'm afraid it's got some coloured vinyl as well. That's kind of see-through. Okay. And available on Bandcamp, but I think they've gone. I think they've all gone, actually, on Bandcamp, which is saying something. So David Toop, Apparition Paintings.
I should follow that up with something. Connection is really difficult, but I have to go back to one of my favorites, what I like to show, that's African albums. This is Low, page 4. From 1975 or 6, don't remember exactly. These guys are really at the foreground of funk music in Africa. They started in 72 with Fela Kuti, of course, but also with Ginger Baker. That connection really plays with these guys together. I think they also went to the UK and got in connection with blues rock and tried to incorporate it in their own music, but also to try to be a band, be popular, to sell records. So the sound is, in a sense, very familiar, but it has that African vibe next to it. And that makes these guys, they play. So Blow is the names of the guys. So it's bass, drums, and guitar, of course, by Berkeley Jones. And the sound is really, really intriguing. It's really grabbing.
Which part of Africa are they from, Paul? Do you know?
West Africa, Nigeria.
Mm.
So usually that's the connection also with London. I don't really know the connection between London and Nigeria, but it seems to be very strong.
Yeah.
Especially just at the beginning of the 70s. That's really what I didn't know was these guys were really flying to London and going back and even maybe recorded in London and get record pressed there and go back. That's really strong connection between the two countries.
There was a lot of Nigerian, I mean, it's a big community in London in the early 70s, actually. I'm still a big community now, actually. I found a lot of the artists who are big on the kind of grime scene, a lot of those are second, third generation Nigerians, actually. So they're really coming into there. And also kind of on the hip hop scene as well, quite a few of those people are all coming from Nigerian background, yeah.
And I think it has really been a big influence also in the music that they're playing in Nigeria, because there they learned about the instruments you were using in London at that time, and they got that back in the production and so on. So you really got a great sound on it. There's
always a lot of controversy about whether Fela influenced James Brown or James Brown influenced Fela. Nobody seems to,
No, exactly.
There's a lot of back and forth between the two, I think.
But I think the strongest connection is Ginger Baker.
Yeah.
He really got the guys because he thought they were great musicians, and he wanted to make in his own band.
Yeah.
And that's where there's really strong. So if I just sample it, this is Crackly, of course.
Like the sound of that.
Yeah, very nice. Has that just been reissued, Paul, or is that an original you've got?
I think it has been reissued. Maybe, I don't know. I like to go for originals, but it is also, this is on Aphrodisia. But if Aphrodisia is a connection to Decca. Decca is the founder of Aphrodisia. So I think there's maybe also a French version or a UK version from the same year, actually. And these, the first one by Blows, like 1, 2, and 3 is already a little bit more available, and 4 you can get easily. It's not that rare, this album, but it's really funky album. And it has that same vibe. I think also they incorporated here electric piano and so on into the music, which really gives it that 70s sound. Love it.
Nice. Okay. I mean, I will show this. I mean, this is not at all this, I'm sure everyone has this album. I just had only got this on CD before, and just sort of been rediscovering Shuggie Otis, and this is the album Inspiration Information, which is the album, the second of his solo albums, where he's playing even more of the instruments himself, and it's just such a hard to categorize album. It just so has its own sound. A lot of use of the very, very earliest kind of drum machines as the kind of root of some of the tracks. But yeah, just especially side 2 is really kind of peaceful and just a lovely kind of balm for the kind of weirdness that's going on at the moment. But yeah, if anybody who doesn't know Shuggie Otis, this is your starting point in the journey, I think. Inspiration.
I think he's something like 17 only or something on that album.
Right.
Yeah, really young. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. I mean, I love the way that both he and Sly as well, they don't try and cover up the sound of the drum machines. They just let them kind of sound like drum machines.
I think that was actually the original Dr. Rhythm drum machine, which the channel takes its name from that drum machine. That's where it comes from.
Just around this time, he played bass on Hot Rats, Frank Zappa's Hot Rats, this time as well.
Wow.
He plays on Peaches on Regalia with that track. So he was doing sessions, and also I think he'd already been working for a few years with his dad, Johnny Otis. And he had almost like a road show kind of thing with lots of different singers and lots of different artists. And I think he'd already been playing for a few years doing that as well. So he's kind of very talented guy, I think.
Yeah.
Amazing guy,
yeah.
It's you, John. So it's time for your unboxing.
I can't, I think I'm going to have to go and get some. I'll do it right at the end.
John, you keep putting it off.
Yeah.
But it's going to take me ages to open it. It's going to be a very boring watch, I think.
You're building up excitement.
I think it's going to be really
It's got about 3 layers of tape on every corner. I haven't got any scissors here either. So.
John, you've got it. Well, Paul, why don't you start showing your book while John goes and gets his scissors?
Yeah.
Well, the book is also very boring because I don't have time or in the mood to read books usually. I only read it in the summertime, and then I'm just reading thrillers. So this is one by Michael Connolly, and this is the Dutch name, but in English, I think it is released at Nightfire. I really enjoyed it, but it's just to be on the beach and have something in your hands to read.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nothing music related, but
yeah. And
that's what I've been reading the last time.
Okay. Well, there is a book that I've just started today, but I don't feel qualified to talk about it because I've only read the first few pages. But I have been digging back into this monster, which is called Galactic Ramble. And it's the second version of this incredibly exhaustive study of late 60s, early 70s, I guess sort of underground UK music by the author Richard Morton Jack. And it's a monstrous book. John actually you've got the original of this, haven't you, John?
Yeah.
I remember you lent it to me and I was absolutely enthralled. You just hear about so many albums that you've never heard of before. And what they've done is they've exhaustively got all the reviews that came out at the time from the underground press, from the music press. Yeah. Plus they've got a whole batch of contemporary reviewers who are talking about her. But it's an amazing resource to kind of discover music that you didn't even know existed and actually find out, whether it might be of interest to you or not. So yeah, it's not cheap, but I know that it's just come out again. There's been another pressing of this. I think it was about 50 quid or something, but it's the sort of thing that you're never going to tire of. You're always going to keep coming back to it. And I've just had a bit of time to sort of explore it recently. It's really great.
It's always nice when people connect the dots between music and how it is related and what came before it. You Absolutely. Can learn so much from it. Yeah.
I completely missed Paul's book.
You missed what?
Oh, you missed my book? No, it was not. It was my summer holiday book, John. No, it was by Michael Connolly. That was nothing to... You missed nothing. Let me say it that way.
Okay, well, my unbox was Norman Coller's Slewfoot. Which I got a copy of, actually, but it's a really, really bad condition. And this was like just the one in between when he was just finishing off his kind of more jazzy thing and moving into more soulful. But it's got a great track on here. It's got the track Mother on the Future on here as well. And also got Anthony Jackson, some great playing from Anthony Jackson. But my copy's so bad, so I need to get a new one, a newer one anyway.
Nice.
So nice timing.
Cool.
We're on to your
book. My book is actually, I'll show this actually. I think this is the one. It's called New Dutch Swing.
Nice.
I thought I have to show this as we have a new.
That came in yesterday.
And it's basically a book about the whole improvised jazz scene in Holland, and it came out in the States actually, written by Kevin Whitehead, who writes for Downbeat and others. It's a really good account of Han Bennick and Misha Mengelberg and all these kind of people as well. The only book written about them at all, actually. And I haven't read it for a while. I need to reread it again, actually. It's just great. It was really interesting, kind of just a missing bit of jazz history, really.
Yeah. Even in my country where I live, people know it. You can find the albums. You can learn anything about the music. Very few people know it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely. It's got the cover's great because it's got Han Bennick. His kit's actually on fire. You can see the smoke coming out of the. He used to do the thing. He had a big.
Smoking something, John. It's not on fire. He's smoking something.
No. He does this thing. He had this enormous hi-hat with these bells on top of it, and he used to put stuff inside and set it alight and play it, and there'd be smoke coming out of his drum kit.
Great.
So the movie side. Last thing I put my iPad because that I watched it online. It is a documentary by Record Safari. Record Safari is the alias of Alex Rodriguez, and he's buys the record for Glass House in LA. So he does a road movie where he's moving from the West Coast to the East Coast and back. And he goes to the different cities. Just, it feels like he's just following the wind, and he goes to a certain city, talks to the owner, and it's all videotaped. And that's really nice because it's like a digging journey. I think it takes at least 1 month. And especially what I like is that he's probably early at the different locations at the record stores. And it are small record stores. He's just looking for records to buy them. And all these owners, they're all so quirky. They all have a little own manual how you should approach them, and it's really nice. So I really liked it.
What's it called again, Paul?
Yeah, I will show you if it is, if I have done it right. Let me. So it's called Record Safari.
Oh, right.
Record Safari. Oh, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we saw it.
Wrong button.
Is it on Netflix or something?
No, that's a little bit of a mystery. They released it online, and I think they're trying to sell it as a movie.
Oh, I see. It's one. Yeah.
Record store day. I know the soundtrack comes out, and maybe the movie will also come out as a DVD or something. This is Alex. You see me in the store with the, and it's some things are so familiar, but it is videotaped very well. And Alex is really a really nice guy to follow. He's very open in the way he connects to people. He talks to people in the shops, why they buy records, what they're looking for, and then the different shop owners, where some are in very small cities. It's really nice. It's a very fun. I watched it twice just because it's so nice.
I think it's still the place to go digging. I mean, I remember talking to somebody who's basically doing on a holiday in the Pacific Northwest and was going around the whole of that part. Yeah. They found this warehouse, this guy who owned this warehouse, who had like 3 million records. The warehouse had absolutely no idea at all what was in there. I only gave them like half an hour to have a look, but they just said it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't think you get that anywhere else. Don't get that in Europe anymore now. I don't know.
Alex also goes to somewhere where they're in the cellar. They are amazing. And every trip he goes there, he's allowed to go into the cellar and nobody else. So he's picking out records that you've never seen, or it's really, really missed that.
So my film is One from the Heart, which is a Coppola film with the famous soundtrack by Tom Waits on it as well. But it's actually a completely meaningless film, One from the Heart, but it's absolutely beautiful to look at. Actually, I mean, if you can almost watch it with not with the sound on, because you'd miss the soundtrack, but it's just absolutely beautiful. It was all very weird lighting and very oddly put together, and but don't try and follow the plot of it at all, because it just doesn't make any sense at all, really. But there's lots of it's almost like an ambient film, really. So you can just watch it and get kind of soaked up in the world. I think it's really good.
Well, I guess I've not been watching many movies. I've been watching I may have mentioned this last video, but the 3 series of Ozark on Netflix are absolutely compelling, but so intense actually that you don't want to you just don't want to binge watch it because it's almost too much. So it's it's a really good thing just to take slowly. And then the other thing, which is the polar opposite, is Schitt's Creek, which is a 6-series comedy, and it's just very light and very funny, very, very well written, very well observed, and actually kind of quite tender. And for a comedy, it's kind of one of those rare. You get quite a few UK comedies that kind of mix the very funny with the very poignant, and not so many American ones, but actually this one really gets it. So I recommend that. And there we have it, folks. I think we've probably reached the end. What a lovely lovely conversation, Paul. So
nice, yeah.
Really, really nice.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, we're going to say goodbye to everybody here, and we'll see everyone next time.